How you doing, bro?
Good, man. It's good to see you, bro.
Good seeing you too,
Absolutely, man.
How you guys doing? What's happening? I'm Ty. I know y'all ain't seen me in a minute. I've been, as you guys know, we've been working on a documentary, the Fleshing Flint documentary, that you got a chance to see, right?
Crazy.
And doing a lot of work. So you guys haven't seen me. I'm back. I'll be doing more lives, more videos, and things like that. I'll get more. I think I'm gonna do a live tomorrow, so I'll get more into like what I've been doing, what's been going on. But I am here with a good friend of mine, Kwaku Grant, and from Wisconsin.
Yep.
Yeah.
No doubt.
We met about a year ago?
Nah, man, it's been like 2 years.
2 years, damn, yeah.
Two and a half years.
Like on a fluke, kind of.
Crazy,
right?
Crazy.
Right? Yeah. I submitted a script for someone, and they ended up giving my contact to him, and we connected. And man, it's been cracking ever since. He's an eye surgeon. And I brought him here today because I know the work that he does, and he does a lot of work in the community dealing with homelessness. And I wanted to kind of talk about homelessness because earlier, or late last week, what was that? I know LA Times came out with the article initially. I'm reading from CNN Politics. And June 6th, yeah, so that's about 4 days ago, talking about the homelessness in Los Angeles. And in addition to this, I'm going to talk to some homeless people. We actually had a chance to talk to some homeless people the other night and do a couple interviews and kind of, I guess, showcase what you do in your work with the homeless, and we'll get into that in a minute. But what made me want to get into this, because I was looking at it, and it was talking about how today the homelessness is 16% higher in LA County than it was last year. This is the highest it's ever risen. And it almost seems like a paradox when you think about we having the lowest unemployment rate.
Right.
And there's no way in hell that everyone that's homeless is like, especially all the 16% that have become homeless in the past year are all drug addicts, are mentally challenged. A lot of those people don't have money, don't have jobs, can't afford, especially in LA, it being so expensive. And you guys know that Jordan and I and Jen were in Vancouver and Washington State doing a feature on homelessness and how prominent it is there, and it affected me, like it really affected me a lot. You know, when I got home, it made me feel, because we interviewed some people and they were talking about how I have a job, I'm working today, and I can't afford housing. There were people on the streets that had jobs, employed, but because everything was skyrocketed in Vancouver, they were living on the street. And I couldn't wrap my head around that. And when I live, and I'm in Hollywood, and if you guys are familiar with Hollywood, you would know, but if you're not, there's a lot of homelessness here. And when Jordan told me about this story, I started reading the article, and I was like, you know what's crazy? I go down La Brea all the time, right? And I either, because I normally take an Uber, or I drive the little motorcycles or scooters that they have out here. And I remember going down and noticing a camp, like a tent camp, and I was like, oh, they moved here. In my head, I'm like, oh, they moved here.
It's another one.
A week later, I'm going to Ralph's, which is, instead of going down La Brea past Sunset, you make a right on Sunset, the Ralph's over there. I saw it in turn. I'm like, wow, why are they moving here? And what was crazy when I read this, I'm thinking that they moved from one place to another. These are probably new people.
You know what's crazy, man? So I live downtown LA. This is like right on the edge of Skid Row, and it's the same deal, right? So I've been down there for probably about now 3 years or so.
Yeah.
And it just seems like it's getting worse. But you don't really have any context. You don't really know if it's truly getting worse, whether or not people are just moving and migrating from different areas. You almost tend to think like it's not possible that it could be getting worse.
Yeah.
It's not possible that more people could be spilling into the streets.
Yeah.
And it must just be the moving phenomenon, or people just, they decided that block wasn't a good one no more. But nah, man, as soon as you see stuff like this come out, you realize that it's actually additive, right? Like they're not substituting one place for another. There's just more people on the streets. It's real, and you feel it, but you don't really realize it until you see some statistics like this.
Like this, dog. Right. This is CNN Politics. It says, I'm going to read a couple paragraph or so. It says, the stunning increase in homelessness announced in Los Angeles this week, up 16% over last year citywide. Up 16% over last year's citywide. Jesus Christ, was an almost incomprehensible conundrum given the nation's booming economy and the hundreds of millions of dollars that the city, county, and state officials have dedicated towards the problem. If you guys aren't familiar with LA is statistically, historically, I guess, have been for homeless people a really good resource.
Absolutely.
We, for the most part, have tried to or the city have tried to do their best to make sure that the Skid Row could stay Skid Row. I think maybe in the past 2 years, they've been trying to gentrify, and people have been fighting against that. But they really have resources here. And to think that it's moved 16%, to me, what's real crazy, and what I think about my own thinking. Because when I passed them, when I thought, oh, they just moved here, and it was just that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It was just that. I went on with my life.
Right. Didn't affect you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course, man. It didn't affect you. You just got to drive on by. You didn't actually have to stay in that reality.
That's the thing that messed with me the most was it was just they just moved there.
I mean, I think, conscious awareness, right? We're all constantly reminded about things simply by being in close proximity to it. So for me, living downtown, I live on 5th and Hill, which is, 5th Street, for anyone that knows, LA has been probably one of the most drug-infested and homeless bastions of all of Los Angeles, right? And so for me, every day I walk out of the street, I'm dealing with it, and I don't go to my car without seeing another homeless people. You actually get to know the people, and you start to wonder where they went when they're no longer there. I mean, you develop a low-key relationship with them.
Yeah.
But for anybody that doesn't live in that close of proximity to homelessness, as soon as you leave the McDonald's or you leave the Burger King, you leave the Ralph's, and you come back to the crib, there's no homeless people around where you live. I don't see any homeless people around here. So you might drive by them and it's all in passing, hey, or whatever. You come back home and you don't even recognize it. It's not a part of your consciousness anymore. But the closer you are to it, the more in it you are, you can't ignore it. And it really becomes something that's more conscious. It's much more a part of your psyche. And that, for everyone that doesn't live next to homeless people or live close to a homeless community, I think that's where the efforts for going into that community and doing public services or giving donations or, feeding the homeless or something like that. It's that proximity that ultimately gives you the connection to them and lets you to realize that, this is not anything that I can deal with in isolation. This is actually something that's these people's homes.
What's interesting is that it's almost embarrassing because your reaction to it is, to me, it's so different from mine.
Yeah.
I look at it as if I walk out, I see it so much, I become desensitized.
Right.
And that's the thing that was most embarrassing when I read this, because I just went on about my day, and I'm bothered by that because it could easily be me. Because a lot of times you think, when you think of homeless people, unless you take time to talk to them, you think, oh, they must have got on drugs. They came here, tried to be a movie star, whatever, got caught in drugs and this and that. And we don't understand, just like this article talks about, it's way more than just drugs. It's mental illness. Like so many of those, the hospitals are closing down and just pushing people out.
Right. And
they're homeless. It's rent. Rent is sky high here. I know, and I think it's Orange County, if I'm not mistaken, that they passed a statute where you know how rent control cannot happen in that county.
Correct.
Cannot happen.
Facts.
It's illegal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's absurd. Now, it was a part in this article that talked about, but before we get to that, what you said stood out to me, and I guess it can be a kind of segue to introducing who you are. And I think that's why I appreciate what you're doing so much, what you're doing with homeless people. We were able the other night to go and film you doing what you do. And I'll have you explain it, but give status quo in our audience, like your background, who you are, and what you do, and what inspired you. And based on, because he lives in, he's a doctor for one, so he's good, right? But where he lives, when you walk outside of his building, he's confronted. They're all homeless people right there. It's right there. He's confronted. And unlike me, who just, oh, they're homeless, oh, they must have moved, he engaged and he used, I guess, no, this is not even a guess, your privilege to then create dialogue, change, and offer assistance.
The doctor told me I was shot point blank range with a shotgun. He said it was not point blank range, but over here we came off. That's why I believe I survived, because of point blank range.
When did you feel like you started to lose your vision? Like when you couldn't see much anymore?
That was when I woke up. It was that like that.
You couldn't see much anymore.
Yeah. They thought we completely blind.
Yeah. But you have to be on eye drops, though.
Yeah, it's been on eye drop. The eye drop prolonged the glaucoma every time.
They said you got glaucoma.
Yeah, they said the eye drop will prolong it.
And if you don't take your eye drops, you can go blind.
Right.
But you haven't taken eye drops in how long now?
Oh man, about a couple months.
Couple months. So do you have any social services now? I mean, are you able to go to a shelter or anything like that?
Oh, I'm for the chest. No.
You don't like it?
No.
What about medical care? What about healthcare?
I'll go there. That's all right.
Jerry, we're going to take care of your eye, man.
Okay.
We're going to make sure you don't lose your vision. Do you have any other family? Any brothers or sisters?
They're in Lancaster.
Lancaster?
I don't talk to them too much, yeah.
What about kids?
No, I ain't no kids, no.
Lancaster ain't that far. You want to see him or you don't want to
see him?
No,
I don't want to see him.
You want to see him?
I suppose they work at the prison down there.
Oh, you don't want to see him.
One of my sisters is a counselor. Her husband's a sergeant there. And her younger sister, they've been there for years. They're working at Norco over here. We go from Lancaster, they send them over here to Lancaster. They've been for years, brother. C, S, D, Z. That's it.
My name is Armando Mayo. I'm a just regular human being like you and anybody else. Trying to learn why is the reason that we are here on Earth. Who we are.
So my name is Dr. Grant. I'm an eye doctor. I understand that you were having some trouble with your eyes.
I live right there in that little space, by the light. I stay right there, behind the truck. I was working in construction, and I have a passion for construction, and I love to work hard, so during those times, I have a few accidents, which sent me to the surgery room. Because after the surgery, I went to life skills, and that's when I learned about, have some strategies so you can be able to keep moving on. That building in the corner, it used to be my community college, Cesar Chavez Community College. It's from, I get my GED, and from there, I was transferred to San Diego City College. I'm a disabled man in college. I need to know how to read and to know what I'm reading. See, what is the main idea of what you read? So when I'm reading and paying attention, I have to kind of close my eyes so I can be able to visualize the letters and read.
I work with and founded a nonprofit that's called Will Grant Vision. And the purpose of our nonprofit is to allow people to be able to see. So my name is Dr. Grant. I'm an eye doctor. I actually do the full thing. I do glasses, contacts, but we also do surgery. I also do surgery. And honestly, I mean, there's a lot of truth to what you just said, and I don't want.
By the way, I'm sorry. He called me. He was like, "Duh," because I was telling him that I was doing a thing on homelessness, and he looked out for me. He called me, "Hey, look, this is guy that I've been helping out, and he's here." And I said, "You got your camera?" He said, "Come out here." And I came out, and we had this clip.
Yeah. And we could talk through this clip too, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of truth to what you said, man. And it's not that I sought out to live in a homeless area. That was nothing that I ever intended for myself.
Yeah.
You know, to keep it 100. I'm originally from Wisconsin, so you know we don't have the homeless crisis confronting us at our doorstep in Wisconsin as you do here in certain parts of Los Angeles. But I just happened to move downtown. You know, that's where there's a lot of stuff going on downtown, and the fact that I live in an area that has as many homeless people as they do, and I'm confronted with it daily as I walk out of my house, speaks to gentrification. You know, it speaks to a whole different aspect of kind of the social milieu that we're dealing with right now. So for me, it wasn't. I didn't seek out to live in a homeless area, but you know, ultimately, you take the good that you're looking for, and you have to be able to deal with the circumstances that are on the ground. And so, in Will Grant Vision, it's a nonprofit that I founded, and you know, the whole point of Will Grant Vision is to give people vision, quite literally to give vision away. And I mean that in a literal sense of helping people to be able to see.
Unpack that a little more, because before we started, like, you broke it down, and I think it's impactful because a lot of times it can kind of go over someone when you say we give them vision. Like, what does that mean to you? Because what it means to you, it didn't mean to me until you explained it, and then I'm sure people like help me out.
So you know, vision. If you were to look up the word vision in a dictionary, you would find two definitions. The first one number one would be eyesight. Would be quite literally, you know, what do people see out of their eyes? The second definition, it's funny because I just wrote about this recently, but the second definition is the ability for people to think and imagine the future, to think about and imagine the future. And that's what we would oftentimes give the tag of visionaries, right? Like, oh, he did this, he saw ahead of the game, he's a visionary. You know, they had incredible foresight, hindsight. These are all visionary or visual concepts that we throw around oftentimes. But really, it's rooted in this concept of being able to see stuff, quite literally what's coming out of your eyes. And the figurative aspect of it is more of a more abstract, more you know, how does the world around you kind of impact who you are, and in terms of what you see, not just your 20/20 vision, so to speak. So. What my organization does, being an eye doctor, it's not something that I ever started with thinking that I would be on the streets of Los Angeles dealing with homeless people and what they are unable to see quite literally out of their eyes. But it's more fundamentally thinking, you know, I became an eye doctor so that I could help people see, quite literally see. And from my standpoint, if I have that privilege, as you call it, and it absolutely is a privilege, if I have that privilege and I have that know-how and those skills, I don't feel like my duty to help people see stops just with the people that come into my clinic or stops just with the people that are able to pay for it. And so, you know, our organization is founded upon that principle that we think vision is a right, not a privilege. And we really actively look for people that need our help.
It's crazy because you have a really nice apartment, but you walk out, and if someone was to walk to your home, never going to your home, they would probably think you live in somebody's hood, right?
Look, man, so I think this speaks to, I don't know the forces that rule Los Angeles. You know, if Garcetti's watching this, can you weigh in? I don't know the forces that rule Los Angeles, but there's an invisible line, no doubt, that definitely separates a certain part of the downtown area from another. And I think it happens to be on 5th and Hill, 5th and Grand, around there, maybe 5th and Hope. But Yeah, so I face Pershing Square. Pershing Square, for anyone that's not from Los Angeles, is the dead geographic center of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
If you were to type in Los Angeles on Google Maps and a pin dropped, it would drop on Pershing Square. So I live facing Pershing Square. And as soon as you cross Pershing Square, you're immediately confronted by this incredibly nice and ornate hotel called the Biltmore Hotel. And I think it's been a bastion of wealth and certain political affiliation in Los Angeles for decades. And sure enough, on my block, you might find 3-in-1 homeless people, or 3-in-1 people that might look like they might have a mental health issue. Meaning for every 3 homeless or a mental health ridden person, you'll find a non-homeless and a non-mental health ridden person on my block. But as soon as you cross to the next block, you don't see any homeless people anymore. It completely goes away.
That's so interesting.
As soon as
the
Biltmore Hotel, as soon as you cross, you go up close to the U.S. Bank building. No homeless. Very little homeless stuff up there. The library does have a group of homeless.
No, but you're right. You get to Fig,
completely gone.
Nothing.
Completely gone.
Dog, tell me about like. It's really kind of the tale of two cities when you think about like who you are, your success, and where you are, and what you're confronted with daily. You just going to work. Every time you come out, you're confronted with it. And the reason I think this is a great question for you because you, it's not you're not desensitized to it. It still affects you, right? So, what do we say? Understanding where you are, the position that you're in, and you're in an apartment, right?
Yeah.
A nice apartment, but it's an apartment.
Yeah.
And you know how much you pay for rent, and you're thinking about these people that's homeless, like, do they even have a chance?
No.
Because nothing's cheap.
No.
This apartment right here is really, really small, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, they don't. I mean, there's no chance, honestly. If it's, here's the thing. I am also a strong believer in our free market.
Yeah.
I do realize the value that the free market of America has not only delivered to Americans, America as a whole, as a country, but also the world. Our free market system really has been the driver of every economy, modern economy in the world today.
Yeah.
So, that free market system is built on scarcity. It's built on, concepts of supply and demand.
Yeah.
If something is in limited supply, prices go up. And it's the system that we all enjoy, that built our roads and our freeways and so on and so forth, that it still holds that same tenet. If there's limited supply, the prices are going to go up. But that really speaks towards then a group of the population, a subset of the population that gets displaced. It's a natural result of that type of a market system, and that's where social services. That's why we have cities. That's why we have municipalities. That's why we have government that's supposed to equalize and establish a certain level of social services for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think America is a little bit adrift with that.
I understand it's a natural that's something I even hate saying. Like, I think it seems natural because it's always been the result, but I think it's the result of greed. I mean, to pass a statute in the county to say it is illegal to make like homeowners or renters watch the amount that they charge for their rent to make sure people are able to afford it. You know what I'm saying? I think what happens, I think you're right. I agree with you in every sense about it's the reason why we are where we are, but it's the reason why we are where we are. Capitalism, the free market, it like both sides, the good and the bad.
Absolutely.
It's the raping and the exploitation
Correct.
of it. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
And that doesn't have to be. I think we're forced to like be in positions to have those services because we let this shit run rampant, and we don't, because it's all about money.
Well, at the same time that we can talk about the founding of this country being one that was capitalistic, that ultimately led to all the things that we enjoy in this country, we also have to talk about the original sin of this country, which was populations of people that don't deserve it, that, inherently don't deserve it. That was kind of the attitude. That was part of the founding of this country, in the soil of it, in the bedrock of this country.
No, I get it. At the same time, it like it's a part of who we are.
There's populations. It's 100% part of the identity of this country. That there's populations of people that just don't deserve the goodness that this system provides.
And it's okay.
It's just it's a consequence of it.
Jesus
Absolutely.
Christ.
There's haves and have-nots. And I mean, it's so that's a whole nother debate.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother thing.
I guess what I'm saying Jesus Christ because it's I hate it and I think it's unfortunate, but it's like it's true. We live in a society, and we've been bred in a society where it becomes like some people just get effed.
Correct.
And hopefully you don't hit a 7.
Well,
right?
I mean, at least, look, when you said some people just get effed, realize what we're talking about is that the place that we started, the people that we're talking about got effed weren't even considered people.
Yeah.
They're animals. They quite literally were not a part of humanity.
Stop. Right before we started, we were talking about, because I think it goes back to empathy and the lack of empathy, and how we view people dictates, how we see people dictates how much we give a F about whether they succeed or their position in life, right? So there's another paragraph in this article, and it was talking about the Mayor Garcetti shouting at he had protesters in October shouting at him because he called it the bridge home. He wanted to build these shelters in these vacant lots, and the people that lived in the area was not going for it. And he wanted them to have more empathy. And you brought up the fact, because we were kind of going back and forth, and I guess you can understand both sides, but bringing up the fact that you had finished reading it, you was like, it's a lack of empathy.
Yeah.
It's a lack of, it's about me, my comfort. I'm not comfortable with them being there.
While I would ultimately say that might be part of the root cause, I mean, I'm not going to say root cause. That's misspoken. That is absolutely part of it. But I also don't want
probably not the root cause, but it's definitely the reason why it continues.
It's absolutely part of it.
Yeah.
I don't want to downplay the real concerns that people have about difference. I mean, people are used to their comforts, and ultimately, for any of us, if you threw us into a situation that was so different than what we're currently used to, ultimately we would get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Everyone might have a different threshold as to where that happens, but ultimately, we all rely on trends. We all rely on familiar patterns, familiar things that make us feel like we're at home. And as soon as that starts to get thrown off a little bit, for some people, that's it's prohibitive. It doesn't allow them to extend their compassion and their empathy for something that's so very different that they don't understand. I think those are real concerns. I think the fact that people are not necessarily comfortable with things that are very different, especially when it becomes very close to them. That's real. But the thing, everyone experiences. Hold on. Everyone experiences that on some level.
Yeah.
But I think the solution then that we're talking about, it's not necessarily the problem, but the solution. It's not necessarily a lack of empathy being the problem, but the solution is empathy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you saw this individual as an individual, you knew their story. You knew that they weren't just a homeless person all their life, that they were a child from Akron, Ohio, that grew up and lost their job when they moved to Los Angeles and ended up having to be on the street, and their bills got too much to take, and alcohol helped them to pass the nights away, and then they became too dependent upon alcohol, and now they're raging alcoholics on 5th and Hill. if you knew that story and you knew the individual from Akron, Ohio, it would be a lot easier for you to have empathy with them, as opposed to just looking them as essentially a zombie.
Yeah.
You know, somebody out of what's that one video game with the zombies? I feel like it started with whatever. Like instead of
Zelda, I don't know. But
Anyway.
let me push back a little bit. So
empathy is the solution, not the problem. I mean, you know,
yeah,
part of
but
it.
look, we had just talked about this, but dog, redlining for them, a real concern was us.
Correct.
And them, no, black people are going to bring down the value. Really, is your prejudice a real concern? I mean, yes, obviously perception is reality, and then you make it a real thing, but F that. Like, think about it, because it's your prejudice.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? You know, think about homelessness can easily be blackness, really.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
No, well, look.
I don't know if to say it's a real concern. It's like hard to like agree with, because prejudiced white people said, "Oh no, that's a real concern." I'm sure elected officials said, "No, these people in this residence have real concerns about you living here, so we're not going to give you a small business loan to get or a home loan to get that house because it's redlined and you know." You're going to bring the value down. It's a real concern of the people that live there.
Correct. I mean, that's a lot to unpack, actually. First of all, let me just shout out Vision. And let me just say that you said perception shapes our reality.
Yeah.
Ultimately, people believe what they see.
Yeah.
So if the only thing that you're seeing is a certain population of people around you, and that's all you're used to seeing, that's what you've grown up seeing, you've seen it for the first 30, 40, 50 years of your life, just that. Literally seeing just one group of people around you, the moment you start to see other things that have only been portrayed on TV or only been portrayed on another visual platform that's not real reality but more of a media presentation, then clearly you're going to have a problem. Your perception is going to shape your reality in that context, right? Like what you see ultimately you do believe. That's also part of the power of vision. And that's also why I think it's so important for us to be able to shape people's what they see. But also, towards your point, you know, when it goes back to the it's funny because at some point my family moved into a place in Wisconsin where we were the only black people on the block. And this is, you know, in the 80s or the 90s or something like that. And sure enough, everyone on that block knew that a black family was moving in, and they had feelings about it. Mm-hmm. There goes the neighborhood. Yeah. And ultimately, what happened was our house became the show house. Mm-hmm. You know, we put
the best house on the block.
Yeah, we put the most effort into landscaping. Uh-huh. We put our house was the most immaculately landscaped home on the entire block. Mm-hmm. Our house had the best paint job. Our house had the most up-to-date roof, so on and so forth. Our house had a nicely paved driveway. Yeah. And ultimately, our house became the one that people would look at when they came to actually survey this area to move into it. And they would say, oh, well, there's a really nice house. That's, you know, and ultimately, we made everyone else step their game up. And the area actually increased in appreciation after we moved in because of the efforts that we were putting forth. So,
well, look. I think that example right there that you just said, what happened with your family, should be the thing that we're going towards when we think about homeless people. I can't care about how you feel.
Correct.
Let's get them in there. Let's build this lot, and then we can work this out. But if I'm continued to be dictated by your prejudice based on whatever you think or whatever you've seen,
correct.
Me not having a chance. That's what you see. Me on the street, you've seen me not having a chance. Have you seen me with the opportunities and the choices? Because if you see that, you'll see I'm going to have the best house on the street.
Yeah, but good example. But you know, and we've talked about this. This is something that we go back and forth with often. You know, perception for that individual is what it is. You can't. No. Okay.
But that didn't stop your family.
So okay, my point being like, somebody could see something. This is an example. Somebody could see something that they get upset with.
Yeah.
Right?
You gotta go?
We good.
Okay.
Someone could see something that they're upset with. But you see the same thing, and you're wondering, you're looking at them like, why are you upset with this?
Well, yeah.
This is nothing.
No, I understand perception.
The fact that they're upset is what you got to deal with.
And that feeling is real.
The feeling.
I get that.
The feeling is real. So it's not.
Do I have to cater to your racism or your prejudice?
It's not our position to try to tell somebody that their feelings aren't real.
No. I'm not going to say it.
The feeling of being uncomfortable with something different,
Yeah,
the feeling being uncomfortable with some homeless people moving in next door to them, that's a real feeling.
Okay.
Discomfort
Yeah.
is, them feeling discomfort is the same way that you might feel uncomfortable with whatever it is, right? Like once
A
rat, right? Once both of y'all are in a place of not feeling comfortable, you're both in the place of feeling uncomfortable. It doesn't matter what brought you to those places. So you got to deal with what those feelings are.
Yeah.
And you have to consider them to be real feelings.
No. Okay, so I don't want to be misunderstood. No. My going, and I don't know. I don't know your family and the energy behind you guys making the best house, but was that energy coming from knowing how racist this? You know what? We about to show these XYZs or whatever. That energy, right?
Seeing is believing.
Exactly, right? You don't even know who I am.
If they can see a black family, that ultimately they all aspire to have.
Dog, you making my argument for me, man.
A house or a landscaping.
Making my argument for me.
Seeing is believing. This is going back to vision.
Okay, so look, that's the thing right there. I will feel like your feelings are real. I can understand that they're real. But I can bogart through them.
Right.
I can you just gonna have to deal with it because I understand that. I understand.
We just have to be sensitive about how we deal with it, how we bogart through it.
Okay.
We have to. That's the conversation, right? It's not trying to say, oh, don't. No.
I think people should be acknowledging
we just
their feelings.
We gotta be tactful with how we.
Yeah.
Just like get in, being like, okay, y'all feel a certain way about us moving in. We're not gonna go to your door and throw, excrement on the doors. We're not gonna do that. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to be it to ourselves. You don't have to come and bring us cookies if you don't want to. But check us in a year and you're going to want to stop by because the flowers make you feel so invited.
You're going to see me with an opportunity.
Correct.
See me with the opportunity. Don't judge me when I don't have any options.
Correct.
So tell me this. How do we address this, dog? 16%, that's huge. And like I said earlier, the 16% aren't all people that's mentally ill or on drugs. A lot of these people can't afford homes. A lot of these people have lost their jobs. That it's such an irony to think about us being in a time where we have the lowest unemployment rate. But in California, which I think we make the most amount of money in this country, California, right?
Yeah.
We pay for a lot of cities and understand that 16% is huge, dog.
Okay, so this is perfect. This goes really back to what we were talking about earlier. We talked about trying to connect things, trying to make things kind of make sense through a different context. The body has a metabolism, right? And the process of metabolism is anabolic and catabolic, meaning it builds and it breaks down. It builds and it breaks down. That's metabolism, right? So the way that we view metabolism or that we actually see it is we have energy that gets us up. We walk around, we're able to go for a run, we're able to drive, whatever it is, stay awake for 16 hours. At the end of that, though, the consequence of that, the result of that process is that we do have to poop, we do have to pee, and we do have to sleep. That's the opposite of our energy, right? That's the anabolic and catabolic.
Waste of energy.
Exactly.
You get what you need and
it's
then
it's a give and take. It's a give and take. Metabolism is one of those things. Cars make fuel. They propel us.
Gotcha.
But at the same time, they give off an exhaust.
Okay.
There's always a downside to everything that's good. So if you think about the economy right now as being great, perhaps the best ever, so on and so forth, that's incredible, right? There's incredible good that's coming from that. But at the same time, the yin and the yang would tell us, and the body's metabolism as an example would tell us that there also has to be an incredible bad that comes from that. It's a give and a take. So yes, a lot of people are eating really well these days, but a lot of that only means anytime you see somebody eating good, that only means that a lot of other people are eating really poorly also. Yeah. And that's just the natural ebb and flow of energy, I feel like.
I get that, but
so
if you look at the black unemployment rate, it hasn't went down like it's.
I don't know those numbers, honestly.
But I think the numbers are fake. This is the thing, right? How do we resolve it? I mean, I got exactly what you said, but answer that for me. Like, how do we approach it? So we got everything yin and the yang and the energy and like you feel that, right? But we have an issue, and we both care about the issue, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The mayor here is literally have people saying, no, we don't want them there. Like, he's not saying move them in your building. He's like, look, this is a lot that we can actually help these people. And people don't want it because it's too close. Like, how do we address it?
I feel like this is a perfect segue into the space that I'm in, which is the nonprofit space.
Yeah.
I do feel like there has to be incredible collaboration and accountability and responsibility on a private side. I don't think that first of all, this is a very complicated problem.
Of course.
So I don't have the answers to everything.
Obviously,
Mental health is a huge issue, so we obviously can't cut funding for all mental health services, which we've traditionally done throughout the country, right? That's a big problem. Drugs are a big problem, right? Ultimately, they break apart families. They do make somebody run off when they otherwise might not run off, right? But these are side issues. One thing that we've always looked for to kind of equalize the playing field for all Americans is the government. We've always looked for social programs and social services, but they haven't been given to us.
And it says
welfare.
The money that's coming in, it's slow. I mean, I think there was 1.2 million. They just passed the I think it's what was it? Proposition HHH. And it's supposed to give 1.2 billion to homelessness in California over a period of 10 years. And 10 years, that's a long time, dog.
Yeah, this is a long time problem.
And 1.2 billion seems a lot, but if you have to spread that throughout California, it's really...
You can only assume that more money is going to be thrown at it. And what I'm saying is that's just the public sector aspect of it. Meaning that's just taxpayers' money that can go towards this problem. Ultimately, that same type of effort, that same type of money, if not more, needs to be leveraged from the private side. Meaning all of the wealth that's being generated in this country and in this community especially, ultimately I think we all have a responsibility to help deal with this problem. And it's not just what's taken out of our paychecks every day that the government can kind of play around with. So nonprofits, people that do have a lot of money, philanthropists, need to match those types of numbers, need to exceed those types of numbers to be able to really pull a pot of money together that can obviously put more resources towards the problem long term. Also, I mean, most of the real estate in this city is owned by nonprofits. And that's true for the entire country. Most of the real estate, most of the high-end real estate is owned by nonprofit entities. Those are not government entities. Those are government subsidized in the sense that they're not paying taxes, but most of them are run by private organizations, private individuals. That's government subsidy money. Those nonprofits with all of that real estate could, in the turn of a dime, if they decided that they wanted this building that they own to then become a public shelter, that they're going to make nice, that they actually want to make into a really nice living situation for people. And it can almost be a program where, there's actual education in there, there's workshops, there's apprenticeships, there's things that really help people rehabilitate themselves and get them back on their feet. That could all come on the private sector. That could be one organization donating a building, that same organization or a multitude of other organizations pooling money together that funds it all sustainably. That money is out there. That money is 100% free in the economy. Eric Garcetti wouldn't have to sign off on any bills. That's a real thing that could be done. But it ultimately, the discussion is about what is the accountability that people themselves or private individuals are taking it's just the lane that we're in right now. It's something that we're trying to do to be able to empower people, give people hope, make sure that people know that they can get out there and you know, if vision is a reason as to why they're not doing something, let us handle that. We got it, you know, and that's kind of what the platform is.
Cool, man. Where can they find you at, Doug? You got YouTube page? Yeah,
we're on YouTube. Check us out on YouTube, please. It's Will Grant Vision. You know, those 3 words: Will Grant Vision. Subscribe. Please subscribe to us. We're trying to get, you know, we're just starting off with this. Up until this point, it's been like a very small team trying to help us pull all this together. We really appreciate the homie Ty for this. We really appreciate Status Quo for it, because, you know, any publicity or any exposure to these efforts is important. Will Grant Vision. We're on YouTube. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers. I think right now
you'll get that easy.
Well, I mean, we'll see. But right now we're at
Status Quo got you.
We're at 20 something right now. Once we get to 100, we can get our own YouTube page and really start to put out more media and more things that are really the cause-oriented efforts that we're trying to put forth. The homie Ty has been with us really since day one here in Los Angeles. Yeah. Putting stuff out. We got a lot more stuff coming. Yeah. We got a lot of content ready to go. Yeah. But this YouTube page, if we get it up, it'll, you know, we'll be able to start flooding it. So it's important.
For sure.
Much appreciated, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for your input, dog. I really, the reason I wanted to interview you because, like I said, the work that I've seen you doing, the work that you do, and the what you see when you see a homeless person. I thought when he wanted me to do this story, I was like, oh, you're perfect because you know, and as you guys saw in the footage, you see exactly what he's doing, and I think it's amazing. So I appreciate you for coming.
The 2 people that you will see, let me just shout these people out. One is a dude that we've been looking after for maybe about a year or 2 now in downtown Los Angeles.
They've already saw them.
Okay. So shout out to Jerry, and then the homie Armando. Yeah. He's an inspiration to us all. He's really the man that can change all of our sense of what we can accomplish, you know, just in his embodiment. So
and I think that goes when you think about empathy and everything. Like, only thing you did is went to them and helped them, and you found out so much about the guy that went to school and everything like that. Man. But yeah, you guys follow us at Status Quo, subscribe. We appreciate the donations. Continue to donate. Go to the GoFundMe. You guys know what we do, why we do it. We need your help. That you are the reasons that we're out to be able to follow the campaigns, follow Bernie, follow Tosi, and give you exactly what you want. So we appreciate you. Continue to follow, subscribe, and we out.
Out front tonight, chaos at the White House. President Trump's deputy chief of staff, his communications director, is
just because of their connection to President Trump. And I know you've been saying...
We learned recently that Donald Trump threatened to sue his former schools if...
Tired of hearing about Trump 24/7? Become a member at statusquo.com for only $10 a month. Click the notification. With your help, we can start the media revolution.
And before Bernie went on stage, I spoke with his supporters online here, and you really get that feeling from them.